Thank you, Charleston. What a great turnout. Thank you all very much for being out here tonight. And let me begin by thanking Gerald Smalls for that great music. Let me thank Stephanie Hale for that beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Let me thank my friend, Representative Terry Alexander, for the invocation and for the great work he's doing for the people of South Carolina. Thank you, Terry. Let me thank Mary Smith for making it clear that health care is a human right. Mary, thank you. And let me thank Representative Krystle Simmons and Representative V.A. Moore for their fine work. The people must be heard. Thank you. And let me thank my dear friend Wendell Gilliard, who got out of a sickbed to be here tonight. And last but not least, let me thank my comrade in struggle, my fellow political revolutionary, Nina Turner. Nina has been going all over this country, rallying people, getting people to stand up for their rights. Senator Turner, thank you so much for all that you do. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the political revolution. Thank you for being part of a campaign which is not only going to win the Democratic nomination, which is not only going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history. But with your help, this campaign is going to transform our country and create an economy and a government that works for all, not just the 1%. And today I want to welcome you to a campaign which says loudly and proudly that the underlying principles of our government will not be greed, will not be kleptocracy, will not be hatred or lies. The underlying principles of our government will not be racism, will not be sexism, will not be xenophobia, homophobia, or religious bigotry. That is what the Trump administration is all about, and we are going to end that. The principles of our government will be based on justice, on economic justice, on social justice, on racial justice, on environmental justice. And I want to do something that very few public figures will do. And I want to tell you exactly what justice means to me, and I hope to you, and what lack of justice in America today is about. Justice, love you too. Justice means to me that we will no longer stand idly by and allow 3 families in this country to own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people. And at the same time as these 3 families own more wealth than the bottom half, we have 22% of the children in South Carolina living in poverty. We have veterans all across this country sleeping out on the streets. And we have 30 million Americans who have no health insurance. That is not justice. Justice means to me that we will no longer accept a situation in which 46% of all new income goes to the top 1%, while at the same time, millions of Americans are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs in Vermont, in South Carolina, and all over this country just to survive. And over half of our people in this country live paycheck to paycheck. And you know what that means? It means that people are frightened to death about what happens if their car breaks down. Because if their car breaks down, they can't get to work. If they can't get to work, they're going to get fired. If they get fired, they can't take care of their kids or feed their families. People today in the wealthiest country in the history of the world are scared to death that they may get sick and have to go to a doctor or end up in the hospital because they cannot afford to do that. That is not justice. And let me be even more focused. Justice is not having a situation where workers at Walmart, owned by the wealthiest family in the world, a family worth $170 billion, pay their workers wages that are so low that those workers are forced to go on food stamps. That is not justice. Justice is not about the CEOs of major corporations making 300 times what their workers earn. Meanwhile, life expectancy, how long we live, is actually going down in America. That's not justice. Justice is not about the top 25 hedge fund managers on Wall Street making double what 140,000 kindergarten teachers make in this country. Justice is not about a situation in which our younger generation will, for the first time in the modern history of America, if we do not turn this around, have a lower standard of living than their parents. I have 4 kids and 7 grandchildren. Downward mobility is not acceptable to me, and it is not acceptable to the American people. This campaign is about moving our people up, not down. But brothers and sisters, justice is not only taking on a grossly unfair economy in which the very, very rich get richer and millions of people become poorer. Justice in a democracy is about creating a political system of one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. Democracy is not about cowardly Republican governors trying to suppress the vote and keep people of color and young people and poor people from voting. So yes, whether Trump and his billionaire campaign contributors like it or not, we are going to overturn Citizens United. As many of you will recall, when we first launched our campaign in 2015, very few folks took our campaign seriously. The ideas that we were talking about were then considered by the establishment politicians and mainstream media to be radical and extreme. Ideas, they said, that nobody in America would support. Well, imagine that, raising the minimum wage to a living wage. Too radical. Oh my God. Guaranteeing health care to all people as a right. Too radical. Creating up to 15 million jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure with $1 trillion investment. Too radical. Aggressively combating climate change. Imagine that, trying to save the planet. Too radical. Reforming our broken criminal justice and immigration systems. Can't be done. Too radical. Ending the power of superdelegates at the Democratic National Convention. Oh my God, you want democracy? Oh wow, too radical. And imagine this one, not having a super PAC and being dependent on wealthy people to get elected. Much too radical. Well, a funny thing happened over the last several years. You know, in 2016, our campaign ended up winning victories in 22 states around the country. We won 13 million votes, over 1,700 delegates at the Democratic Convention, and most significantly to me, we ended up winning more votes from young people, Black and white and Latino, Native American and Asian American, more votes than Trump and Clinton combined. Well, I appreciate the Bernie, but it is not me, it is us. And by the way, those ideas that we talked about here in South Carolina and around the country 4 years ago that seemed so very radical at the time, well, today, virtually all of those ideas are supported by a majority of the American people, and they are now supported by Democratic candidates from school board to President of the United States. With your help, we have come a long way in the last few years. Now, our job is to complete what we started, and we are going to turn our vision and our progressive agenda into reality. We are going to bring justice to America. Now, as Senator Turner and others tonight have told you, real change never, ever comes from on top. It always comes from people at the grassroots struggling and standing up and fighting back. And my message to you today, and I think Representative Terry Alexander made this point, and Wendell Gilliard made this point, is that we are not just a campaign, we are a movement. And by that, what I mean, and no other candidate will tell you this, but the truth is that no president of the United States, no matter how well-intentioned he or she may be, no matter how honest that president is, no president can do it alone, because the special interests in this country have so much power over our economic and political life that the only way we make real change is when all of us are in it together. So that is why I say to you, and this is not just a bumper sticker, although it may become a bumper sticker, I don't know. It is not me, it is us, for the simple reason. Look, I'm not running for president just to become president. I guess that's cool. White House, nice place to live. But if I became president and could not accomplish what we want to accomplish, what is the point? What is the point? And the only way we make change is when we stand together. Let me give you some examples. Tonight, we say very clearly to the private health insurance companies, whether you like it or not, the United States of America will join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a right. You know, and I want you all to know this. Every day in the newspapers, there's another columnist and editorial attacking me. This is an impractical idea that you got to tell the people of Canada and Germany and Scandinavia and France and the United Kingdom. If they can guarantee health care to all people as a right, don't tell me the United States of America cannot as well. And by the way, we will no longer accept the absurdity, and I want you all to know this, of a system, a dysfunctional healthcare system, in which we pay twice as much per capita as do the people of any other country. All right? We pay twice as much. And yet, we got 30 million uninsured. Many of you may have insurance, but you're probably underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. Is that right? All right. And despite paying twice as much as other countries, our healthcare outcomes in many cases are worse. Our life expectancy is lower. Our infant mortality rate is higher. Now here is you ready for a really radical idea? Here it is. Hold on to your hats. The goal of healthcare, in my mind, must be to provide quality care to all people in a cost-effective way, not tens of billions of dollars in profits for the private insurance industry. Now, I want to give you some examples. I want to give you some examples of how dysfunctional and irrational our current healthcare system is. Here in South Carolina, you have many, many thousands of people who have no health care. Healthcare costs are soaring. But in 2017, the top 65 CEOs of health insurance companies made $1.7 billion in compensation. People cannot afford health care, yet the CEO of United Health Group made $83 million in compensation. Seems to me that we need a healthcare system that invests in disease prevention, keeping our children well, that invests in doctors, and we have a shortage of doctors, that invest in nurses, that invest in dentists, that invest in rural health clinics so everybody in this country has access to a doctor. We do not need to maintain a system which is designed simply to make enormous profits for the insurance industry and the CEOs of those companies. So brothers and sisters, yes, we will pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. By the way, Donald Trump attacks Medicare for all because he says it's going to weaken health care for seniors. Now, I know this will shock you, but Donald Trump is lying. I know, it's a shocking thought. The truth is that Medicare today, it's a very good program, very popular program, but it does not cover dental care, hearing aids, or eyeglasses. Under our legislation, we are going to cover those benefits for older people. But when we talk about the healthcare crisis, we also have to talk about the pharmaceutical industry. And man, I deal with them every day. They are the most greedy group of people you have ever seen in your life. So we say to the pharmaceutical industry that you will no longer charge the American people by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. That is going to end. And today, we understand that at a time when workers in South Carolina, in Vermont, and all over this country are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs, 50, 60, 70 hours a week because the wages they earn are so low, we understand that the $7.25 minimum wage is a starvation wage. So yes, we're going to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. And by the way, when we talked about $15 an hour 3 or 4 years ago, it seemed like an impossible dream. I want all of you to know that in the last several years, 5 states in this country have already raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And last week, the House Labor and Education Committee reported out a minimum wage bill of $15 an hour. And that legislation is going to come to the Senate, and I urge you to tell Senators Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott that workers cannot make it on $7.25 an hour. We've got to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. And today we say that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, it is an embarrassment that our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our wastewater plants, our rail system is crumbling before our eyes. We are going to bring about $1 trillion investment, up to 15 million good-paying jobs. And when we talk about clean water, I am mindful of the fact that states like South Carolina have water systems serving hundreds of thousands of people that have failed state inspections and not complied with safe drinking water laws. We're going to change that. My God, it is not a radical idea to say that people should have clean drinking water when they turn on their taps. And today we say to the young people of our country, we want you, regardless of your income, to get the best education you can. Just before I came out here, just a few minutes ago, I talked to 2 young women who live in the area who are deeply in debt for the crime of having gotten a college education. How many of you are dealing with student debt right here? In fact, as I understand it, South Carolina has one of the highest levels of student debt in America. So here is my promise to you. Number 1, we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Number 2, we are going to significantly lower student debt in this country. It is absurd. It is absurd that simply because some of you went out and got an education that you're going to have to be paying off that debt for decades. That absurdity is going to end. Today, we say to our seniors in South Carolina and all over this country, we know you cannot make it on Social Security benefits of $12,000 or $13,000 a year. The Republicans want to cut Social Security. We've got some bad news for them. We are going to expand Social Security benefits. And today, we say to Donald Trump and the fossil fuel industry that climate change is not a hoax, but is a massive, unprecedented threat to our country and the entire planet. And whether the fossil fuel industry likes it or not, we will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And when we do that, we're going to create millions of good-paying jobs. And today, here in the Charleston area, you are ground zero in the fight against climate change. You are already seeing the effects of climate change in coastal erosion and destructive tidal floods. Let us be clear. We have a moral responsibility to make certain that the planet we will be leaving to our children and our grandchildren is a planet that is healthy and is habitable. That is a moral responsibility. And today, we say to the prison industrial complex that whether you like it or not, we are going to bring about real criminal justice reform in this country. We are going to end the embarrassment of our great country having more people in jail than any other country on earth. Instead of spending $80 billion a year locking up fellow Americans, we are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. And that means no more private prisons and detention centers. It means no more war on drugs, which has destroyed so many lives. Too many people from coast to coast have seen their lives wrecked because they were caught with some marijuana. That is going to end. Many of you don't know, but tonight there are hundreds of thousands of people in jail, and you know what their crime is? They are too poor to afford cash bail. Okay? We are going to end cash bail. And when we talk about criminal justice reform, we're going to change a system in which tens of thousands of people get criminal records every year for possession of marijuana. But when the crooks on Wall Street destroyed the economy, not one of them got a criminal record. So we hold the radical idea of justice for all. Not one kind of justice for the poor and another kind of justice for Wall Street. And when we talk about justice, we understand that it is imperative that we end the demonization of undocumented people in this country. We are going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program and develop a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. The United States must never be about snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. And today we say to the top 1% and the large profitable corporations, I don't know how tasty that would be. And these are people that you all should know have never had it so good. Corporate profits are soaring, creating billionaires every single day. Now, Donald Trump decided that he wanted to throw 32 million people off of health insurance, but at the same time, he felt it imperative to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large profitable corporations. So tonight, we say to the 1% and the large profitable corporations, those days are over. You're going to start paying. They are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. To give you an idea how absurd the situation is, some of you may have noticed. Anybody here know how much Amazon paid in taxes last year? That's right, you got it. So here you have a corporation that made over $10 billion in profits, owned by the wealthiest guy in the world, and they paid $0 in taxes. That will end. We, brothers and sisters, are going to defeat Donald Trump. Not because I am a billionaire or we're going to have a PAC funded by billionaires. We're going to win this election because we will put together the strongest grassroots coalition in the history of American politics. And I am happy to tell you that in the first week of our campaign, 1.1 million people signed on to roll up their sleeves and get to work and help us transform America. Donald Trump wants to divide us up by the color of our skin, by our country of origin, by our gender, our religion, or our sexual orientation. We are going to do exactly the opposite. We are going to bring our people together. We're going to bring our people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, old and young, gay and straight, men and women, native born and immigrant. That's how we win this election. Let me tell you that I know a little bit about grassroots politics because that is what I have been doing my entire adult life, and it's something that I kind of do naturally. You see, I did not come like Donald Trump from a super wealthy family, which gave him millions and millions of dollars to build luxury skyscrapers, casinos, and country clubs. I did not come from a family that sent me to an elite private school. I was educated in public schools. I did not come from a family that gave me a $200,000 allowance every year beginning at the age of 3. I came from a working class family, and if I can remember correctly, my allowance was 25 cents a week, $12 a year. Unlike Donald Trump, I did not come from a family of privilege that prepared me to entertain people on television by telling workers, as you will recall, "You're fired." I came from a family who knew all too well the frightening power employers can have over ordinary working people. As all of you remember, a few months ago, Donald Trump boasted proudly about shutting down the government and leaving 800,000 federal employees without income to pay their bills. I guess when you are a billionaire, you may not understand that employees in many cases work paycheck to paycheck. They got to pay a mortgage, they got to pay child care, they got to pay the light bill, they got to put gas into the car to get to work. My family lived paycheck to paycheck. I know where I come from, and that is something I will never forget. Our campaign is about fundamentally ending the disparity of wealth, income, and power in this country. But as we do that, we must address the disparity within the disparity, the outrageous levels of racial disparity that currently exist. It is not acceptable that black families have 1/10 the wealth of white families. It is not acceptable that a much higher percentage of black workers earn low wages than do white workers. Social mobility for blacks is also much worse than for whites. We're going to change that. There is racial disparity in terms of health care when the infant mortality rate in black communities is 2.5 times that in white communities. In terms of financial services, there is disparity when redlining prevents black-owned businesses from getting loans, and predatory lending results in higher interest rates in the African American community. There is disparity in criminal justice when African Americans are twice as likely to be arrested and almost 4 times as likely to experience physical force in an encounter with the police. Today, there is racial disparity in education when African American school districts have lower levels of funding, often lack the new technology that the kids need, and often have less experienced teachers. There is racial disparity in terms of our voting rights when you got governors working overtime trying to keep people of color from voting. Brothers and sisters, in the next number of months, you're going to hear a whole lot of candidates coming to South Carolina. I want to tell you, I know many of them, and many of them are very good people. They're personal friends of mine, some of whom I have known for many, many years. And they're going to be laying out what they think is right for America, and that's what democracy is about. And what I want to do tonight, and I want to conclude by simply telling you as directly as I can what a Bernie Sanders administration looks like. First of all, our cabinet is going to look like America. And not like a country club. When we are, and I use the word advisedly because again, I can't do it alone. When we together are in the White House, we will enact a federal jobs guarantee. If you look at our country today, if you look at a dysfunctional child care system, if you look at the need for more teachers, if you look at the need to rebuild our infrastructure, transform our energy system, take care of our seniors, there is more than enough work to do. Let's make sure that everybody in America has a job. When we are in the White House, we will not only end the decline of rural America, a very serious issue. 60% of rural counties are depopulating. But we're going to also attack the problem of urban gentrification. In my home city, and I expect all across this country, working people are paying 50, 60% of their incomes in housing. That is absurd. We're going to build the affordable housing this country needs. When we are in the White House, we're going to move aggressively to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country. The American people want common sense gun legislation, and we are going to bring that about. When we are in the White House, we are going to protect a woman's right to control her own body. That decision is a woman's, not the federal government, not the state government, not the local government. It is a woman's right. The struggle that we are engaged in is not just about defeating Donald Trump, as important as that is. This struggle is about taking on the incredibly powerful institutions that control the economic and political life of this country. This is not an issue you're going to see on television, trust me. Not going to be in the newspapers. But I can tell you, having been a United States Senator for 13 years, that there are enormously powerful, well-funded special interests that have enormous power, not only over our economic life, but our political life. Come to Washington, and you're going to go through a maze of lobbyists who are there to fight for the wealthy and the powerful. So what we have got to do, and this kind of makes this campaign a little bit different than the other campaigns, we know that we cannot bring about real change unless we have the guts to take on Wall Street, not widely known. 6 financial institutions on Wall Street have assets equivalent to 54% of the GDP of America. In other words, 6 institutions have unbelievable power over our economy, and in my view, the time is now to break them up. We all want Medicare for all. But let me tell you, the insurance industry will spend many hundreds of millions of dollars to protect their profits and the status quo. Are you ready to take on the insurance companies? And the drug companies? And the military-industrial complex? And the fossil fuel industry? So I'm here to tell you that we are. I'm here to tell you that real change, whether it has been the labor movement where workers stood up for their rights, whether it has been the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the gay movement, whatever it has been, real change is never easy, and you're going to have to take on some very, very powerful special interests. And I can absolutely assure you, starting sooner than you think, that these powerful special interests are going to start spending huge amounts of money trying to defeat us. Now, they may have a lot of power, they do, and they may have unlimited amounts of money. But there is something that we have that they don't have, and that is the people. And if we stand together and not let Trump and his friends divide us up, you know, we're supposed to hate immigrants, we're supposed to hate this group, we're supposed to hate that group, that's just a trick to divide us up. And these guys laugh all the way to the bank. All right? If we understand that there is no such thing as a red state or a blue state, in my state of Vermont, the so-called blue state, you got thousands of people who are struggling economically to take care of their families, and the same is true in the so-called red state of South Carolina. The truth is, it's not red state or blue state. There are 50 states in this country, and in every single one of them, working people are struggling to take care of their kids and pay their bills. So brothers and sisters, I want to thank you all very much for coming out tonight. You know, there are some people out there who say, well, you know, Bernie Sanders may do okay in Iowa and New Hampshire, maybe Nevada, but not South Carolina. Well, I got some bad news for them. Based on what I'm seeing tonight, we're going to do just fine here in South Carolina. Thank you all very much.